Hello, I'm meteorologist Rob Carmack here with a weather impact update for you on this Monday. Now, we've got a lot of things going on here locally in Northern California. It seems like if it's not raining or not snowing, then there's no weather. There absolutely is weather and things to talk about. In fact, there's some bigger things in the background, but I will include a chance for some precipitation, only one spot, only one day, but at least it's better than nothing because it's been very dry for a while. So here's some of our headlines for Northern California. We're going to continue to see cold mornings and mild afternoons for a while. We've been doing this very odd thing that we're going to keep doing for a while, which is colder temperatures than normal in the morning and then more mild conditions than normal in the afternoon. In other words, colder and then also warmer all in the same day than what a typical day for this time of the year is. The other thing that's going to happen in the background is that wind is coming back, not in a major way, but very noticeable. Over the weekend, we had barely any wind at all. But today it's going to be gusting up to 25 miles per hour or stronger, and you're going to notice a lot of that in this area. For Southern California, I have to mention it because it's such a big deal. We're looking at extreme winds coming back. Just as bad as when the fires broke out, that kind of wind is going to be happening in Southern California on this Monday, but it does end on Tuesday. So looking at rain in the bucket. Remember, Southern California is now living in a world where it is the driest start to the rainy season, which begins October 1st, that they've ever seen. That's the case for LA, for San Diego, all the way now until the middle of January. We've barely seen any rain at all, and conditions there are historically as dry as they've ever been up to this point in January. Now, once you get to Northern California, yes, we've had some rain and some snow. Really good to get that early in the season. The ski areas would love more natural snow, but they've had two things: ideal conditions to make snow and also cold enough weather to preserve the snow that they've already had. So conditions are firm, but people have been skiing. They've been having a good time. For far Northern California, we're still living above average, which is great. But even those spots like Redding and Eureka, which were far ahead of normal, they're starting to lose ground from this very dry pattern. Now, for Southern California, remember, we kind of had an idea that it would end up being dry because of the La Nina pattern. But you always have to remember that for La Nina winters, we've had so many winters that have been above average, quite a few that have been below average. The reason why we lean drier than normal for La Nina is because most years it ends up being a little bit drier than normal. Northern California is usually right around normal. Just to highlight this one more time before we get into our local weather, red flag warning and extreme winds are going to be the case all the way until Tuesday for these dry offshore winds. We hate to see this endlessly, but that's where we are. For Northern California, we've got some northerly winds that are important. These are dry, gusty conditions. It'll be most notable on the west side of the valley. This is the southern end of the Sacramento Valley. Very gusty in the coastal range foothills, as well as the Sierra. Notice that it's the crest off to the west side of it for most of the day. Then it's going to drop off once the sun goes down. So this is just a one-day deal for us, and it's actually going to help us in one very specific way, and that is air quality. What you have this time of year when it's not raining and it's not snowing is you tend to see poor air quality settle in the valley spots because primarily there's just pollution we create on a daily basis. And then there's also wood burning and agricultural burning for the Sacramento Valley. There's a brand new ag burn ban that's been in effect since January, the very beginning of January. That's something new. But regardless, it's poor air quality because the air is just stagnant. It's not moving around. So when you have cold air sinking down, it creates this inversion that is where the smoke starts to rise, but it just can't go past this layer. So you get concentrated, very poor air quality with the light winds and the inversion. And this is something that it gets bad, and then there's a new evening, and then it gets a little bit worse, it gets a little bit worse, it gets a little bit worse. So primarily, most of the pollution that we see in the wintertime for Northern California, the valley spots, is created by wood burning in people's fireplaces. It seems like that couldn't be the case, but I literally talked to the air quality management folks last week, and they said, yes, at least 50% of the pollution that we have in the valley spots this time of year is created from wood burning in your fireplace, and it gets worse with these conditions. So watch for the wind to stir things up and actually decrease the concentration of those particles. So even though it's tough to get through, it's kind of annoying when you have that wind, it does actually improve air quality, at least while the wind is blowing. The problem is that after we hit highs in the 60s and the winds start to go calm overnight, it's very likely that some of that poor air quality that's momentarily a little bit better does start to get worse as the week rolls along. So here's the high temperatures for the region. We've got 55 for Arnold, 64 in Oroville, 36 there for Truckee, 35 for South Lake Tahoe. The Bay Area is going to have just another beautiful day. I'll be honest with you. I love rain and snow in the winter. That's really what we need this time of year, but it has been enjoyable outside. Whatever you want to do, the weather is not stopping you. 62 degrees in Sacramento. Very similar for Stockton and Modesto, 62 in Granite Bay, 62 in Auburn, and 63 for Woodland. Now we get to the good stuff. Is this going to go on forever? It sure seems like it. And for valley spots, the Bay Area, we're going to be dry for a while. But we've got this situation between late Friday and early Saturday where we get nailed, but just in one specific spot. This is not a big storm at all. At best, we're looking at maybe half an inch of precip. But why is it only here and not in the valley and not along the coast? Don't all these storms come in from the Pacific, sweep across the area, and then move out toward the east? Well, there's one specific type of system that comes in that can do that. It's called an inside slider. This is weather jargon, but most storms form in the Pacific, move across the area, and then we have a very traditional rain pattern. But every once in a while, a system forms over the top of us, slides down on the east side of the Sierra. So low pressure rotates in this direction, and the moisture that it can pick up moves into the Tahoe Basin on the east side of the Sierra. As it moves up in elevation, you do get a little bit of snow that spills over the top for a little bit and then dries out once you get to the lower foothills and certainly by the valley. So these kinds of systems can produce a little bit of snow, and that's what we're looking at on Saturday for only the Sierra, mostly on the east side, and then it's going to be out of here by Sunday. After that, we're likely going to remain cold, and we're also looking at dry conditions to persist. So this is going to be our future for the near term, for the next 3 days, for the next 7 days, for the next 10 days, maybe even for the next 14, which takes us into February. The clouds are all we're really likely to see from that inside slider situation in the valley spots. The temperatures will come down a little bit between Friday and Sunday, but I don't think you'll even notice it. So look for a little bit of snow in the Sierra on Saturday. Clear up by Sunday. The valley spots remain dry for the next 10 days, if not longer.